In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, Richard Stayman and I, we are going to talk about the top NBA prospects in the East. Earlier, James covered the West, but now it is time for the East. And of course, we have to start off talking about Cooper Flagg and how much his injury could impact the 2025 NCAA Tournament. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, Mr. Mavs Draft, Richard Stayman. Well, I guess he's not Mavs Draft anymore. He's just going by his name, Richard Stayman. And this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code Locked On NBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And if you are not subscribed to the NBA Big Board YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop an episode because it is go time. The NCAA tournament is here, which means the NBA draft is right around the corner. So please subscribe. Again, like, share, comment, and click the bell so you can be notified. And also, you have to check out the Locked On newsletter. Your favorite NBA team has a newsletter delivered right to your inbox every day. Check it out at lockedondaily.com. It is the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage. Again, delivered right to your inbox every single day. Obviously, the Locked On crew, I mean, we work hard. You got a podcast every day. And for your NBA team, you can get a podcast and a newsletter. But we are here to talk about college basketball, the NCAA tournament. And let's talk about the East. When you talk about the Eastern region, you have to start off with Duke. And the main attraction for Duke is Cooper Flagg. And he has an ankle injury. From everything, it sounds like he's going to play. But I want to hear your thoughts, Richard, about Cooper Flagg's ankle injury. How do you think it could impact the tournament? We know it's not going to impact his draft status at all. But how do you think it could impact the 2025 NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Duke, there's a few things. One, like this is the weekend where you could be vulnerable. Obviously not against the 16. I don't think they're losing that. But also, like if they get Baylor or Mississippi State, whoever they get, that could change a lot and could be a big factor in, just their outcome. Now, the argument I hear all the time, and I fully agree with this, is if you are not good enough to survive without your best player, you're probably not a true one seed. So I think they'll be fine, probably still be Baylor or Mississippi State. But one thing I brought up when we did our opening or Selection Sunday podcast was the idea of getting VJ Edgecombe again could be really interesting. And I do think, if Cooper's not 100%, that could be an upset potential. I'm not brave enough to pick it, but it is a game that I do think would be close.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, that Cooper's draft range is solidified. He doesn't have to play another minute. He's going number one. His teammates, I think, have a chance to improve their draft stock. I mean, I think they're both lottery picks, and I'm referring to freshman Kon Knueppel and Khaman Maluach. Knueppel showed what he's capable of. He led Duke to the ACC tournament championship in their last two games. Really, 2.5 games without Cooper Flagg. They beat hated rival North Carolina. They beat Louisville. Yes, some may say the ACC is weak. I've even seen people in the comments saying, and this is the anti-Cooper Flagg crowd, saying that he's had great teammates around him and Duke has proven that they can win without him. I think they need him to go to the Final Four. But with that being said, let's say Kon Knueppel has some strong performances. They make a deep tournament run. Cooper is clearly not 100%. How high do you think Kon Knueppel could rise with a impressive NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I've said that the 3 through 14 range is extremely jumbled. There's not much difference in variance between, honestly, 3 and 14 to an average year. Kon is in that range for me right now. And I think he is somebody that could go from being around 10 on mine and most boards to going into the top 7, 6, 8 range, depending on the team that's picking there. One of the things that I've been preaching is, I'm a huge Liam McNeely fan. I've loved his game since high school. They're similar-ish archetypes, and I think that Kon, if he goes off, has a much higher ceiling for draft night to be selected higher. And I think that's something where if Duke does extremely well without Cooper doing great, and it starts with Kon, I think we're looking at a guy who could easily be a top 8 pick.
What about Maluach? Khaman Maluach. I think sometimes I have him number 5 on my board. Other times I have him as low as 8. What do you think he needs to do to boost his draft stock or even maintain it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I never know what to do with him night to night. The perimeter defense stuff really worries me, but when you're 7'2", you have some semblance of a jump shot and you can actually protect the rim. It's a pretty golden archetype. It's a very safe archetype. I think for him, one of the things that I vividly remember about the NCAA tournament, and these are usually the kind of players that get exposed, are these bigs that have some hole in their defense or motor, anything like that. I don't think the motor stuff really applies to him, but I remember DeAndre Ayton against Buffalo when Nate Oates absolutely shred him apart. And that was a big warning flag to the NBA to be like, hey, don't take this guy first. I ignored it. NBA teams obviously ignored it. The Suns ignored it. But I think something like that could happen to Maluach. Now, will it happen in round 1? 0 chance. But could it happen down the road in the Sweet 16, Elite 8? Very easily. So I'm curious to see how they target him. And if he can survive those targets and huntings, I think he's going to be just fine. And his stock would probably stay in that same thing, top 8 to 6, depending on the team.
Well, that's very interesting because the main appeal for him is his defense. Like nobody's drafted him in the top 10 because of his offense. It's his defense. Yeah, offensively, he can play a role as a vertical lob threat. There's been hints, not really this season, but there's been hints of being able to space the floor. I've seen some people say that they don't like his hands. But with that being said, if he is a projected top 10 pick, but you think that he can be picked on defense, I mean, that's then what's the pill? Why is he a top 10 pick?
Well, I mean, there are some rim protectors that, I don't know, you put them out on the perimeter and they struggle, but they do so well at everything in the paint, and maybe they can stretch the floor. Like there are ways to make up for it. It's really just that perimeter defense. I think the defense as a whole still grades out very well, especially as you get closer to the rim. But it's just that I think he's had extremely stiff hips, and that limits him. And I'm curious who targets him because I think it's inevitable.
All right, the next player I want to talk about is Isaiah Evans. With Cooper Flagg going down, everyone thought, all right, this is Isaiah Evans' time. This is the opportunity for him to get big minutes and show what he's capable of. In the game against Georgia Tech where Flagg went down, he played 17 minutes, was 5 of 9 from the floor, had 14 points. All right. The next game against North Carolina, played 26 minutes and he didn't do anything. 0 for 3 from the floor, which is shocking because he's a guy that when he gets in the game coming off the bench, he normally is able to get up a couple shots within the first few possessions. Only took 3 shots against North Carolina, had 2 points. Then in the championship game against Louisville, had only played 18 minutes, only took 4 shots, was 2 of 4 from the floor, but had 6 points. Combined 8 points in the last 2 games. I think that the performance in the ACC tournament might have slowed the momentum that he had as far as draft momentum. I think he's in a tricky situation because, in my opinion, if you are not guaranteed to be a top 25 pick in this draft and you're an underclassman, with the money that's out there, it may make more sense for you to go back to school, get money, and then try to increase your draft stock. Again, top 25. Anything after that, then you're in my opinion, you're flirting with going into the second round. Isaiah Evans, is he a player that you think could make a strong case for himself as a first round pick if he has a strong NCAA tournament?
Easily. I mean, I think he's somebody that, first of all, we look at these guys who limited minutes kings, that this guy wins. I don't know if you've ever looked at his per 40, but he takes 15 shots per 40 minutes. 12 of those are threes. Like when he gets in the floor, if he's touching the ball, it's going up. And in the best way. It's not like a true ball hog. It's just he's so good at being able to be an off-ball mover that doesn't need much space to get his shot off. So for him, I think he's somebody that I go back and forth on if he should return. But at the first few games in the tournament, particularly this weekend against the 8-9 winner in the 16, I think you're actually going to see a good amount of usage out of him in more than just like 10 minutes and he had 5 shots. But I think you're going to see 20 plus minutes, double-digit shots potentially. I'm curious how they, how defenses with time to game plan for it, how they attack him. But for me, I think we're looking at a guy who, if he doesn't get a first-round promise, I don't see why he would not return to school.
But that's what makes his performance in the tournament interesting.
Yep.
You look at the per 40, he took 7 total shots in Duke's last 2 games, and he played 26 in 18 minutes. That is pretty concerning. All right, real quick, Tyrese Proctor, 2 years ago in the tournament, he had a game against Tennessee where I thought, like, hey, this guy is going to be a top 10 pick in the 2024 NBA draft. And he's been good this year, but he has not had the same buzz. I actually think, like, as far as like leaving, he could not have left on a higher note after the Tennessee game 2 years ago. What do you think he needs to do to put himself in the first round range again?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I thought after his freshman year too, like after his freshman year was a bad time because, that was the Tennessee year. I have my years backwards. Last year was the year he had the offer against NC State. I thought he should have left after freshman year. He reclassified and everything. I thought it was a good, gamble that NBA teams like to take. For this year, I don't think I can even get there with first round. I just don't see it, to be honest. He is usually pretty clutch in the NCAA tournament. Again, some exceptions, but I think he elevates his game. How much does it actually mean, though? I wonder about how his combination of point guard skills work, right? Where it's like, can he be both a full-time passer and scorer in limited minutes, if that makes sense, where it's like he kind of picks and chooses his battles in that regard. And I'm curious how he does both at the same time, like what that jump looks like for him. I'm not there in first round pick because of it.
Not even a strong Final Four run where he's knocking down threes.
I mean, historically, the teams that make those crazy runs generally have guys overdrafted in terms of like where they were on mocks to where they end up. So it's possible. I just feel like if it was any other position, maybe it's point guard, right? Like anybody, it's the most saturated position in the league.
Basketball season is heating up, and there is no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, which is the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, all you have to do is just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections for shots you win up to 1,000 times your cash. It is easy to use. It is available in over 30 states, and it lets you mix and match projections across different sports. And Prize Picks makes it simple. You can set your lineup in less than 60 seconds, and you can stay engaged all game long. And when you win, your money hits your account in as little as 15 minutes. So there is no waiting around. And every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25%, giving even more value to your lineup. So download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. When it comes to grocery shopping and meal planning, I've had this ongoing problem. I just really don't have the time. Between work, life, and trying to eat healthier, I am constantly feeling stressed out. I'd go to the grocery store, buy things that I don't need, and then end up with no time to actually cook. And sticking to my health goals, an absolute struggle. But everything changed when I discovered Hungry Root. Honestly, it is a game changer. It is the easiest way to eat healthy without all of the stress. And with Hungry Root, it's like you have your own personal shopper and nutritionist all in one. They take care of your grocery shopping. They recommend meals that fit your taste and your health goals, from everything from anti-inflammatory to high protein and gluten-free options. And the best part is that every meal is ready in 15 minutes or less. I'm talking quick, healthy meals that actually taste good, all delivered straight to your door. It is a huge time saver and can make eating healthy so much simpler. You're going to absolutely love Hungry Root. For a limited time, you get 40% off your first box and a free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/lockedonnba. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's hungryroot.com/lockedonnba, LOCKEDONNBA, to get $40 off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. Again, hungryroot.com/lockedonnba. Do not miss out. Yep. All right, let's switch to the 2 seed Alabama. They have quite a few NBA prospects coming into the season. I thought that Jaren Stevenson was going to have a breakout year. Hasn't happened. LeBaron Philon has emerged as probably their best NBA prospect. Grant Nelson, I know he's been kind of banged up a little bit. There's always Mark Sears, Darian Reed. Who is their best NBA prospect in your opinion? And is this a team where it is hard to evaluate the players as NBA prospects because they're playing with so many other guys that, unless you're Sears, you may not even have an opportunity to really stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I think Philon's the guy, but what makes it hard is Sears has the highest usage on the team. Grant Nelson's battling a knee injury. I think he'll be okay to play, but he's not 100%. I'm interested to see who steps up because they've got a lot of different young guys that are interesting. I also thought Stevenson was going to be a breakout player. I've had higher expectations for Reed. I actually just don't like that fit, but I think it's going to come down to really how guys like Diabate play. And he's somebody who I think is extremely interesting. He's kind of surpassed Darian Reed in terms of, just that bench minutes lately. Like Darian's not playing versus Diabate is. I'm curious to see just what that forward rotation looks like with Nelson a little bit hurt. Omer Rui's playing well, but who steps up next? And I think that could be a potential downfall for them. Is just how does their front court hold up? Like even against Robert Morris, like I've heard you talk about him on the podcast. I like him too. Alvaro, like he is somebody that definitely could give them trouble.
Alvaro Folgueiras. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Interesting prospect.
I left it for you to pronounce because you knew there was a 0% chance I was getting it right.
See how you do anybody's name. When you said Alvaro, I was like, oh man, he left me hanging. So, how you bring up the guy's name? But anyway, Alvaro, and I might be pronouncing it wrong, Folgueiras is a legitimate NBA prospect. He's a player that's efficient from the floor. He can score in the post. He's not going to wow you with athleticism by any means. But what's interesting about him is you look at him and you're like, nah, he's a below the rim finisher, doesn't have vertical pop, doesn't have NBA athleticism, but he shot like 62% at the rim this year. The main, appeal for him is his passing. Like he is a really good passer. I've seen people compare him to Santi Aldama. Maybe it's just because they're both Spanish, but if there's a player that could make a real strong statement and a name for himself to NBA scouts and even just kind of like the casual fan or the fan that's not like a diehard NBA draft fan, I think Folgueiras is a guy that is a potential breakout candidate.
Yeah, I mean, on top of all that, he's 6'9", averages 14 points a game, 9 rebounds a game, and then 3 assists. But also, he's shooting 78% from the line and 42% from 3-on-3 attempts a game. Like, at the very minimum, we're looking at a guy who transfers up to a very high power 5. I mean, would it shock you if like Tennessee got him? It feels like every year they get one of these guys. So, and they, for the most part, have all had success. So I think that's at the worst. Like if he's probably not going NBA straight from Robert Morris, but he's a guy in 2026 that we talk about a lot.
Yep. He had a game against Oakland a few months back, maybe a month or so ago, where he almost had a triple-double. So, again, he is a breakout candidate. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions, and the privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. And the new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate subject to change. The 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. You must keep the funds in the IRA for 5 years. Go to robinhood.com/boost.
The NCAA Tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA Tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, let's talk about one of my favorite matchups. If there were 5 first-round matchups that I really want to see, this is one of the 5, and it is BYU versus VCU. BYU is the 6th seed. VCU is the 11th seed. But the matchup that I want to see is Egor Demin versus Max Shulga. I absolutely think this is a bad matchup for BYU. And I think it's a tough matchup for Demin, projected first-round pick, player that, I mean, I've been open about it, just has not always been assertive, but there is a lot to like about him as a 6'9" playmaker, the best passer in this draft. But Shulga is an older, I think he's a 5th-year guy. He's like this super tough, competitive guy that we've seen Egor have some problems with those type of players. Shulga's physical, he's older, and if they match up, I think that Shulga's going to get the best of him, and it's going to probably like magnify some of the concerns for Demin. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I actually think it's a terrible matchup for BYU in terms of just the worst possible matchup they could have had. Do you know who has the single best? They were number 1 in opponent's rim field goal percentage. It's a pretty easy guess who we're talking about him, but it's VCU. That's a team that also BYU doesn't have great size. They rely on a lot of their outside scorers doing a lot of damage, and I think that's just going to really, really hurt them. And like guys like Luke Bamboye, Christian Furman, those two off the bench are a significant 1-2 punch that I think are really going to hurt Egor's game inside the arc. Like, he's not going to be able to go at them. He's going to have to do most of his damage as a scorer, at least from the perimeter. And I think that limits him a lot. Whereas Shulga, in theory, he could be a 3-level scorer and he play makes. He's 6'4"-ish. I'd say he's closer maybe to 6'5" than 6'4", but somewhere in that range. He's not too short to handle Egor, and Egor's shot isn't like, his scoring just doesn't scare me enough where I don't think Shulga's size is going to limit him too much. The guy who scares me though is Richie Saunders, because that guy is either could win them the game and make up for all of those weaknesses.
Yeah, Richie Saunders is their best player without a doubt. Not the best NBA prospect, but I mean, I think the attention Egor has got this year has made people pay a lot more attention to Richie Saunders, and he's been good. So my question for you is with Egor, and we've seen in some matchups where he's got benched. Well, bench is maybe a strong word, but the minutes have been going down. He played 20 minutes against Iowa State and 25 minutes against Houston. The Houston game, they lost by 20. The Iowa State game was close. In those 2 games, the last 2 games, he only had 9 points combined, 9 turnovers combined, and 7 assists. How much do you think he plays?
I mean, Kevin Young has kind of been harsh on the young guys, right? Where we've seen what happened to Kanan catching. He's out of the rotation essentially. And I don't feel like Young will be willing to give Egor much of a benefit of the doubt. Like, he's going to go with guys who, if he's not aggressive, he's going to have a short leash. So I think that trend is real. And I just, again, it has to do with that youth, and I don't know what that's going to look like in game.
Yeah, and that's why I think this is an interesting matchup. One, from just the team aspect of it, because I think VCU has a chance to pull off an upset, but then also just from the player matchup. All right, let's switch to the 8-9 matchup we talked about in the beginning. You got Mississippi State and Baylor. You have Josh Hubbard, a bucket, and the guy that everybody's coming to watch is from an NBA draft perspective is VJ Edgecombe, a player that could, maybe a strong tournament could put him as high as number 3. What are your thoughts about this matchup? I know we talked about it after the Selection Sunday show, but what do you want to see from VJ? And he has a tough matchup as Mississippi State has one of the better perimeter defenders in the country that can possibly slow him down.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real argument that he's the single best defender in the country. Like, he is very much up there in terms of wings. That's the toughest matchup VJ's had all year. Like, all things considered, this is going to be his biggest test. If he can score efficiently and not have many turnovers, that's really the big thing. Like, Cam Matthews is somebody who he is getting 2 steals a game. He's going to get a block a game. Like, he's going to get all that. Will VJ be the victim of that? Unclear. So I'm interested to see what his scoring and playmaking look like, particularly his scoring. I think that's going to say a lot. If he can't get more than like 5 shots off, that means Cam just won the matchup. But I think it's going to be great. The big thing for me here, beyond VJ, I mean, Josh Hubbard. I feel like he's a guy nationally a lot of just regular fans don't know. And he's 6 foot, maybe less, but the winningest player, I believe, or maybe the highest scorer in Mississippi history.
Yep.
And like just a legend. Like, we're looking at a guy who I think is going to be an All-American by next year. This is an easy candidate to be a one and done for a one and done player. Ultimately, though, I think VJ has his hands full. It'll say a lot about his draft stock of where he goes, depending on how he plays.
Yeah, he's had some struggles, and it's been well noted on the NBA Big Board podcast. He's had some struggles against top opponents throughout the year, turned it around in conference play, but he has a tough matchup. Cam Matthews is 6'7", 235 pounds, and he is averaging 3 steals a game, and he's a player that can, make life a little tough for VJ. But if VJ outplays, I mean, he's going to outplay him just because he's going to get the opportunity to get more shots. But if VJ has a strong performance in this matchup, then I think that could definitely help him with NBA scouts. NBA scouts already love him, but that'll be a test that he passes, which will set up a matchup against Duke. All right, let's talk about Arizona, a possible matchup against Duke. It's the NCAA tournament. You don't want to think too far ahead. All right, let's talk about Arizona. Arizona is the 4 seed. They have a matchup against Akron. Who is your favorite NBA prospect on Arizona?
Man, I love Jaden Bradley. I'm just a huge fan of his game. The way he gets to the rim, the way he defends, he can play make. Really, the only thing missing there is just consistent jump shot. And what's weird is I actually think he has a good jumper. He just isn't confident in it. So that's really all that's missing for me. I've liked him since was it already 2 years ago where he had a pretty big game with Arizona in the NCAA tournament? Or was it?
He was at Arizona last year.
Okay, and then Alabama 2 years ago, then is what it was, where he had like a double-digit scoring game off the bench, and it was really impressive. And then he transferred to Arizona. I just feel like he's somebody that, like, everybody talks about Caleb Love.
I'm scared of Caleb Love.
Yeah,
Caleb Love is scary for both teams. If you're an Arizona fan, you're scared of what he can do. If you are an Akron fan or any team that's playing against Arizona, you're scared that Caleb Love can, score 30 points on 10 of 15 shooting, or he can go 2 for 15. Scary either way.
Literally. There's very few in between points. And I don't know. For me, it's like, if Jaden has more of a leash to run point than Caleb Love, I think good things will happen for Arizona. I'm not too worried about the upset actually over there, but what I do think is interesting is if they get, that game against Oregon or Liberty, both matchups are really intriguing, but I'd love to see a rematch of Arizona Duke on a neutral site. That is what I'm looking for in the Sweet 16. They played early in the year. I can't remember if it was out one of their courts or if it was like in.
No, it was in McHale. It was Arizona.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yes. And I don't know. I want to see it on a neutral site. Both teams have changed a ton. I don't know. I want to see that back, and I want to see how Jaden does. He's a guy who I just feel like has NBA stuff, just needs to be more confident in it.
Yeah, he shot 46% from 3 last year. Very limited amount of attempts. Wasn't even 1 3 a game. I thought, okay, this is a year that he can show that the numbers were legit. I didn't think 46% was sustainable, but he's down to a career low 29% from 3 on 2 attempts per game. But he is a player to definitely watch out for. Carter Bryant could really help himself with the strong NCAA tournament. And with any team Caleb Love is on, especially in a big game, I just want to know which Caleb Love shows up. The guy that can carry you to the Final Four or the guy that can shoot you out of the game in the first half. But he is a polarizing prospect either way. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. We just covered the East region. Stay tuned. We have Leaf Tulane up next. We have more episodes, and stay with us throughout the NCAA tournament. We are out of here.